Look like the WNBA saga, the little run that they had, is now over. As major networks could be pulling segments from the broadcast and this current CBA agreement is heating up, this is all what the owners wanted. Y'all ain't finna get no $1 million contracts. Guess what's gonna happen to that CBA agreement? It's gonna stay the same. You're not getting no extra money. The ratings has dropped 80%. That's what they're gonna say. You know, they're gonna be looking through this. Hey, you know what? The ratings are just, I'm sorry. So all of that momentum that you guys had about a year and a half ago, it's over. It's over.
The women's pro basketball world just got rocked by a shockwave that nobody saw coming.
ESPN, Fox, other sports networks, everybody has took away WNBA segments.
A move so explosive it could shake the league to its core. ESPN and Fox Sports, the very giants that helped push the WNBA into the spotlight, are now pulling back in a retreat that feels ruthless, cold, and calculated.
Ratings go down. What happened when the ratings go down? They're back in a sunken place, bro. And guess what happens when they go back in a sunken place? They're not getting no big-time paydays.
The timing couldn't be worse. It's like ripping the floor out from under the league while it's already staggering. Why? Because the face of the game, Caitlin Clark, is gone for now. She's the once-in-a-generation talent who didn't just boost numbers, she set the league on fire. In just one season, Clark dragged women's basketball into the mainstream, shattering every ratings record the WNBA ever dreamed of. But now, with Clark sidelined by a brutal injury, the league is left exposed, and the media's sudden blackout could be the dagger that cuts the deepest. The once blinding spotlight has flickered out almost overnight, throwing the WNBA straight back into the shadows. What was celebrated as the long-awaited golden era of women's basketball now looks more like a fragile house of cards, collapsing under the pressure of its own hype. The surge of fans who swarmed arenas and screens just to watch Caitlin Clark's deep-range magic? They've started to vanish, leaving behind a painful question. Was the Clark effect ever built to last, or was it just a short-lived high?
These set paydays that they garner and they want, bro. In order to do that, you have to have a consistent track record of good ratings, consistent track records of merchandise sales, ticket sales, and all of these things. And I'm telling you right now, next year is going to be a tough year.
For a league already battling low paychecks, shaky ticket sales, and nonstop controversy, this sudden retreat from ESPN and Fox Sports feels less like business and more like a death sentence. The timing is merciless, the message even harsher. If Clark isn't there to carry the story, the spotlight disappears too. And let's be clear, this wasn't some casual programming shuffle. When ESPN and Fox Sports quietly but firmly cut down their WNBA coverage, it signaled something much darker. This wasn't about schedules. It was about power, survival, and the chilling question of whether the league can stand on its own without its brightest star. This wasn't just a business move. It was a cold-blooded verdict written in the ruthless language of numbers. ESPN and Fox didn't need to say a word. The analytics screamed it loud enough. These media giants don't run on loyalty or passion. They run on hard data, viewer counts, ad revenue, and the kind of storylines that keep America buzzing. And for a full year, Caitlin Clark was that storyline.
A little conspiracy with keeping Caitlin Clark out, with them playing a factor in her not being there to keep the CBA agreements and pull away the interest from the league. I believe this is a planned attack by the WNBA owners, commissioners, to pull the interest away from the league.
Every no-look dime she dropped, every jaw-dropping three she drained from way downtown, every fiery press conference where she refused to back down, it all turned into pure TV gold. She was the engine dragging the WNBA from the margins into the mainstream, a one-woman headline factory turning skeptics into believers. But the second she went down, carried off the court with her season cut short, that unstoppable momentum didn't just stall, it evaporated. From the boardrooms in Bristol to Hollywood offices in Los Angeles, the tone flipped instantly. The recalculation was brutal and immediate. Here's the ugly truth. Sports networks aren't sentimental. They're predators chasing profit. When Clark was on the floor, ratings exploded, merch racks emptied, and social feeds couldn't stop buzzing. Without her, the numbers didn't just fall. They fell off a cliff. What's left exposed is terrifying. The WNBA wasn't just boosted by the Clark effect, it was addicted to it. And now, that addiction might cost them everything.
This has been a joke, and the WNBA has, in my view, blown its opportunity.
Instead of Caitlin Clark's star power launching the whole WNBA into a new orbit, her glow ended up hiding the league's darkest truth. It had gambled everything on the back of one 23-year-old phenom. And when she went down, the mask slipped, exposing just how fragile the foundation really was. The collapse was brutal and impossible to ignore. Fans who had gotten used to WNBA highlights leading every sports show suddenly heard nothing but silence. Games that once trended nationwide on X barely made a whisper. Those primetime ESPN slots that had symbolized a new golden age vanished, replaced with reruns and filler content. Inside those ESPN boardrooms, the flat line of viewership told them everything. They didn't just lose a star, they lost the league's pulse. Advertisers weren't blind either. They had shelled out big money to ride the Clark wave, but once the audience disappeared, so did their patience. And Fox Sports? Even colder. Their suits reportedly pulled the plug with lightning speed, bluntly deciding there was no point wasting airtime on a product that, without its superstar, couldn't hold the spotlight. What makes this cut so deep is the cruel contrast to just one season ago. Back then, the media drowned in glowing headlines about a WNBA renaissance. Talk shows debated whether players deserved paychecks closer to NBA levels. Commentators called it the league's golden moment. But now, that golden era looks like fool's gold, crumbling in real time as the absence of one player reveals how dangerously dependent the WNBA really was. Players who once felt unstoppable, riding the wave of newfound fame, were finally demanding the respect and the fat checks they believed they had earned. But now, all that bold energy has been crushed in an instant by the brutal reality of one injury. It's not just unfair to Caitlin Clark, it's a slap in the face to the hundreds of athletes who spent years grinding in obscurity, waiting for this exact moment of recognition. And the message from the networks couldn't be clearer. No Clark, no coverage. Inside locker rooms, frustration has exploded into pure rage. Players desperate to show the world that women's basketball was bigger than one superstar are being forced to face the painful truth.
I don't know what the ratings are. I haven't read them, but I know last year with Caitlin Clark, I would, if the game was on, I would drive home making a point. And when's that game on?
I would watch it on my phone in the car. So you could listen, not watch, I'm driving, but you could listen to it in the car.
Without Clark, the league looks alarmingly fragile. Sure, owners and executives can try to spin the story, but actions speak louder than press releases. When the two most powerful networks in American sports slam the brakes, it isn't just a slowdown, it's a total derailment of the hype train. And for the Players Association, it couldn't come at a worse time. They were ready to renegotiate the CBA, ready to turn all that spotlight into generational wealth. Instead, they've been blindsided, left scrambling to bargain from a position of weakness. The timing isn't just bad, it's catastrophic. What makes this saga sting even more isn't just that ESPN and Fox walked away, it's how fast they did it. No hesitation, no grace period, no second thoughts. It was almost like they were just waiting for the first crack in the armor, ready to bolt the second Clark showed any weakness. And the second she went down, they pounced. But that retreat was only the trigger. It blew the doors wide open. Suddenly, critics who had been biting their tongues unleashed with a vengeance, shredding the WNBA's soft spots that Clark's superstar glow had been hiding. The whispers turned into roars, and the league's long-brewing storm finally erupted. Clark's injury wasn't just bad luck. It was the lightning strike that set the whole forest ablaze. And let's be real, ESPN and Fox didn't move in isolation. Their exit was the byproduct of a league that gambled its entire future on one blazing star. The writing was already on the wall. To understand just how ruthless this decision was, you only need to look at the numbers. When Clark debuted, the WNBA was riding a tidal wave of momentum unlike anything it had ever seen. But the second she vanished, that wave didn't just crash, it dragged the whole league under with it. Caitlin Clark's college hype didn't just carry over, it exploded into the pros. Ratings doubled, arenas sold out, and her jersey shot past every other athlete in any sport to become the hottest seller in the game. But when analysts started peeling back the numbers, a dangerous truth surfaced. This wasn't a league boom, it was a Clark boom. Indiana Fever games featuring Clark shattered records, dominating national broadcasts. But when other teams hit the screen, even squads stacked with established all-stars, the numbers barely budged. And the instant Clark went down, the model didn't wobble, it collapsed. Games that had once been pulling solid ratings crashed to near record lows, exposing just how fragile the entire structure really was. The ripple effects were everywhere. Local ticket sales, once surging every time the Fever came to town, flatlined. The social media buzz, once fueled by Clark's highlight reels and fiery pressers, completely evaporated from the algorithms. What the network saw wasn't just a slowdown, it was a full-on financial sinkhole. Their entire WNBA business plan had been stitched together with a single thread. And when that thread snapped, the whole fabric unraveled overnight. And then came the coldest move of all, the surgical cut. ESPN and Fox didn't just scale back their coverage, they gutted it. Pre-game shows dedicated to the WNBA axed, SportsCenter highlights that once ran on loop reduced to blink-and-you'll-miss-it clips. Even the talk show debates, where Clark's rivalries had fueled endless drama, vanished from rundowns as if they had never mattered at all. For the players who bled and hustled to drag the WNBA into the spotlight, this was their nightmare confirmed. The league still isn't strong enough to stand on its own 2 feet. And many critics say the league itself created this trap by pouring nearly all of its marketing firepower into one woman. Caitlin Clark became both the savior and the single point of failure. She lifted the WNBA higher than it had ever been, but in doing so, she exposed a brutal weakness, the lack of true star depth to keep mainstream audiences hooked. And the networks? They don't deal in patience, they deal in profit. When the money dried up, they didn't blink. They cut ties instantly. Behind the scenes, whispers grew louder. Insiders claimed ESPN and Fox never fully believed in the WNBA's long-term stability. They were already hunting for a clean exit strategy, pointing to years of tension over broadcast rights and constant scheduling fights. Clark's injury was the golden excuse, a ready-made justification to walk away without looking like villains. And the fallout for the players goes way beyond screen time. This is about power. They were preparing for a high-stakes CBA battle, ready to leverage record ratings into life-changing contracts and generational wealth.
Times have you watched WNBA games since Caitlin Clark got hurt? Now think about this. It led our show last summer.
A bunch.
Oh, I think I led with it 6 times. I led with the WNBA. And either way, I talk about what I think is interesting. You notice I didn't talk about it this year?
Yeah.
It's not because I suddenly disliked the league. I thought it was growing. Anybody that wants to argue this, you're off your rocker. Caitlin Clark is the league.
But without that coverage, their bargaining chip has turned to dust. Instead of negotiating from strength, they're left scrambling in silence. The networks have moved on to safer bets, and the players who once had a megaphone now sound like whispers fading into the background. While the headlines scream about ESPN and Fox bailing, the real war is brewing in the shadows, a cold, cutthroat fight over the WNBA's collective bargaining agreement. Insiders have been whispering for months that owners were gearing up for the nastiest negotiations in league history. And now, with Clark's injury gutting the market, the timing couldn't be more sinister. The current CBA is about to expire, and players had planned to storm the table with demands that would have rewritten their future. Bigger salaries, ironclad multi-year deals, first-class travel, and a real cut of league revenue. Their case seemed airtight. Sold-out arenas, record-breaking TV numbers, and a cultural wave led by Clark were supposed to prove the WNBA's value beyond question. But with the networks retreating and ratings in freefall, that argument has crumbled to pieces. Suddenly, the owners hold all the cards. Instead of being cornered into offering groundbreaking contracts, they can now point to tanking numbers, empty seats, and fading buzz as evidence that the league simply isn't ready to pay out like the players demand. And here's where the whispers turn dark. Some players believe this collapse isn't just bad luck. They suspect the timing is too convenient, too perfect for ownership to walk away smiling. To them, this feels less like coincidence and more like a quiet, calculated strategy. Wait for the bubble to burst, let the networks flee, then use the wreckage to keep the players in check. The theory is as dark as it is familiar in the playbook of pro sports. By pouring every ounce of hype into Caitlin Clark and leaving the rest of the league in the shadows, the owners built a bubble. And once that bubble inevitably popped, they were ready to weaponize the wreckage. In simple terms, shrink the pie before you ever have to argue about how to slice it. Now the players are feeling the squeeze like never before. For years, WNBA athletes have fought tooth and nail for respect, equal treatment, and fair pay. They've stood on the front lines, demanding recognition for their craft. But without Clark fueling the buzz and with networks bailing, their biggest weakness is now exposed for all to see: the lack of deep, consistent fan engagement across the board. And the owners? They know it. With the media spotlight fading fast, the players' case for massive raises and groundbreaking contracts suddenly looks shakier than it has in years. The power shift is undeniable, and it leaves the league's future hanging in a dangerous balance. Instead of storming into negotiations with momentum on their side, the players are now cornered, forced onto the defensive, scrambling to prove their worth in a market that looks like it shrank overnight. The threat of a lockout looms large, and if no deal is struck by the deadline, the 2026 season itself could hang in the balance. The idea of a work stoppage is nothing short of catastrophic for a league still clawing for survival in an already packed sports world. For the players, the thought of losing a season right after finally tasting mainstream relevance is gut-wrenching. But for certain owners, a lockout isn't a nightmare, it's leverage. Some insiders believe it could be part of a ruthless plan. Squeeze the athletes until they're forced to accept a deal that tilts everything in management's favor. And while the boardroom chess match heats up, the players are facing another enemy: public perception. Media critics smell blood in the water, painting the league as weak, unstable, and overhyped. With reputations under fire and their future on the line, the WNBA is heading straight into the fight of its life. If you're still here, make sure to like, subscribe, and share, and we'll see you on the next one.